Welcome to the inaugural episode of Lee Carvallo's Potting Challenge, a Simpsons Gaming Podcast that will look at the highs and lows of the Simpsons tie-in video games. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy.
And I'm your other host, Thrill Ho, also known as Derek.
Hell yeah. And today's episode is intended to be a primer of sorts and set the stage for what's to come, our history with The Simpsons and gaming, and most importantly, why the hell we're even doing this. Which
I don't actually know the answer to
I was
that,
going to say,
honest.
you know, I put that in the outline and I was like, I don't actually know if I know why we're doing this.
I think it'll answer itself as we're going through this journey, and maybe at the end of the podcast we'll finally have an answer of why we did it in retrospect, because it's about the journey, not the destination, you know.
That's true. It's about the games we will play, not the games that we'll play.
It's not the games we'll play, not the games we'll beat, because I guarantee that some, if not most of these games will not be beaten by me at the very least.
Oh, well, that is an interesting challenge, but we will talk about all of that. So to kind of set things up, we wanted to do an episode to just prime I keep saying prime the pump, as you will. That's the phrase, to talk about what this is. So first of all, Lee Carvallo's Potting Challenge. That is a self-explanatory name, I feel like. We really...
it just depends on who is listening.
True.
Actually.
True. So this is a Simpsons gaming podcast. The idea is to play through the entire catalog and experience every Simpsons video game that there is to offer. We'll talk about the full list that we're going to go through, but the idea is this is going to be a monthly podcast where we're going to go through 22 Simpsons video games, give some like really interesting tidbits, I think, but also just talk about our first impressions and first playthroughs. And first is important too, because I think we don't have the extensive history with Simpsons games that you and I both have with the Simpsons show, I think is fair to say, right?
Not even remotely close. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And I think there's a good chance that like I might have like one more game under my belt than you, but like we're talking like maybe onesie twosies, like to be quite honest. Like, so, and there's 22. So there's a lot that we haven't actually experienced. But like I said, you and I have been lifelong Simpsons fans, and I don't think we can really talk about the prospect of Simpsons video games without talking about why and why we're doing this project, without talking about why we love The Simpsons, right? Like, or our history with The Simpsons. So I think we both talked about it. So I was on an episode of Gimmicks where we talked about Gimmicks being your other podcast. One of your other podcasts, where we talked about
too many podcasts.
Hey, that's your next podcast. Too many podcasts.
Too many podcasts. I've thought about that as a name. I just don't know what the subject matter would be, to be honest.
You just do a recap of a bunch of other podcasts.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's the most self-indulgent bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
Too many podcasts coming to Glitterjaw in 2025. No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, so we talked about it on a little bit on that episode of Gimmicks, I think, where we talked about our shared history of The Simpsons. But I think there's no better place to recap it than here. So what has been your life's journey, Derek, with The Simpsons family?
My life's journey with The Simpsons family.
I don't know why. I'm phrasing things like that. Like, we know each other. Like, we know each other. We both have been on each other's podcasts. I don't know why I'm like, tell me your deepest, darkest Simpson secret.
Sim secret. The Simpsons has always been a major part of my life. It premiered the year that I was born. Like, I was born that August of '89, and it premiered that December of '89. The show proper, obviously not the Tracy Ullman shorts. And my parents already were big fans of the Fox network. Like, for whatever reason, I think that they were really attracted to the like sort of edgy sort of, I don't know, like more like the edgy kind of like more lowbrow humor that the Fox network had just really appealed to them a lot. And I think especially in that a lot of Fox shows, like early Fox shows when it was like still a very new network, were very much like, I talked about this on the Are You My Mother episode that I was on recently about The Simpsons as well. But I think like Fox was interesting in that it sort of dealt with like lower class people in a way that hadn't really been seen very much on network TV, you know, or if it was, it'll be like something like Roseanne, which I love, but I think would sort of treat low class issues like very seriously and like issues even as it was a sitcom, whereas like a lot of Fox stuff is like, again, more lowbrow. So you get stuff like Married with Children and eventually The Simpsons that would have like perspectives from low class families, but you would like laugh at them as much as you laughed with them. Like it didn't really take that aspect of it seriously. So I think for my parents, who I think especially at the time enjoyed things that like reflected their lives, but also like wasn't like super smart and, you know, academic about it either, you know, not to say that Roseanne was academic, but like I said, a little more serious about it. I think it just really appealed to their tastes a lot. So they were really into stuff, especially The Simpsons and Married with Children. So they were already watching it when I was like able to perceive things. And so my earliest memories have always been of The Simpsons. And then the older I got, the more that they were just like, let me watch it. And it became sort of a rite of passage that like, once my little sister was born, it's like, okay, now it's time for her to watch The Simpsons too. And we'll have our TV in our kitchen when we're eating, in our dining room when we're eating. You know, like we weren't a family that sat around the table and talked to each other. We watched The Simpsons when it was in reruns at like 6 o'clock and 6:30 while we were eating dinner, you know? So it was a kind of a family bonding thing. Watched it for years, never really stopped consistently watching it until maybe around like 2007, maybe a little bit even later than that, because I was still watching of like the, I don't know, 500th episode or whatever it was around like 2012 or something.
I'm trying to think if
we were definitely still watching it in 2007, I think, because I remember we were in college, we were going into college. And there was some good, like there's like a Neil Gaiman episode from like around that time that I still remember really liking. So we were watching it until then, roughly. And then it's just like around that time, I know, is when I sort of fell off, and now I just sort of dip back in every so often.
Because
I hear about interesting, you know, episodes.
I was gonna say, I mean, so like the reason it's tough for me to remember when I stopped watching was because I feel like, and you probably experienced this too, I know you talked a little bit about it, but like a lot of what I watched were reruns, right? Like it wasn't like the newer episodes when they came on at 6, or it moved around, I feel like, didn't it? It was like at 6 and then
the new episodes?
No, the reruns. Like,
oh yeah. I feel like I most prominently remember it being at like 6 and 6:30.
Yeah.
Obviously for our local Fox channel. This isn't going to, you know, be the same for everybody else, but yeah, it was like 6 and 6:30 mostly, but I think it did jump around a bit and then eventually like stopped airing at all around that time.
Yeah, and I it's funny, I'm glad you mentioned the part about like watching TV around dinner time, because when I was listening to your conversation with David when you were talking about that, I was like, oh yeah, that was totally like us too, except that's the funny thing is like I don't remember like us watching The Simpsons as a family. I felt like I watched it more than my parents did. I definitely know that they know about it and have watched it. Of course they know about it. That would be really weird if they did. If they had no idea what The Simpsons were.
I come from an Amish family that doesn't own a television, you know.
But like, I mean, I remember us watching, like, we would like watch wrestling and stuff like that around like maybe not around dinner time, but that would be like our family gathering kind of watching, which I think is equally as wholesome as The Simpsons. But yeah, I think, you know, I also grew up with The Simpsons. You know, a lot of my friendships, I would say, have not formed around The Simpsons, but I think there's been a sort of like, it's this like glue, right? Like, you know, there's a lot of different things that help drive friendships forward, and just being able to like throw out like a Simpsons reference like with you or some of my other friends like that I was growing up with, like those types of things have been like what I connect most with The Simpsons to like to this day, as like kind of this almost omnipresent piece of my life. You know what I mean? Like our friendship isn't like based around The Simpsons, like, because again, that would be kind of weird.
Well, it would be if we didn't meet through The
Right.
Simpsons. It was just another thing that we have in common, which I think is the experience for a lot of people our age and like Gen Xers too.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of how my view of The Simpsons is like, we have this kind of like this thing in the periphery that we all kind of grew up around, that's still going to this day. It's still a thing, now, that we can all like kind of reference back. And I think this is something that, and I wasn't even intending to bring this up again, but I think we talked about it when we did 22 short films, but it's almost kind of like this common language in a way, right? Like you can just throw out like of course, I think the same thing happened. We were talking about it before, where it's like, when I want to think of a reference, I can't think of one. But like, egads, my, roast is ruined, someone is going to know what that means. And like
dental plan, someone else is going
Lisa
to follow up with
braces. Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah. You're right. It's like this weird connective tissue that people have that like culturally, that's like, I think it's one of those things that is hard. It's hard to find in culture, right? Like obviously as much as people talk all the time about how pop culture is like fragmented now, but even when there was more of a monoculture, something that stuck with that like spanned multiple generations, that like no matter where you came from, you had the capacity to watch and like internalize, like it's something that can be such a bridge between people, like to no matter where you come from, like anyone theoretically could have access to the Fox network, on Sunday nights at 8:00. Right. Like it is interesting to find something that was so popular in pop culture. It was so like well respected in pop culture as well, that also so many people watched. And that is still like a reference point now to this day. Like, in a way that sometimes the original jokes have like lost all their meaning because of how they've been memified on the internet, like people just know Simpsons references potentially without even knowing that they're Simpsons references sometimes. And that's sort of rare to find that, especially from like just a show that started in the 90s. Like, it's not like this is some old, this isn't like something with like a 70-year history in pop culture,
Right. 100% that. And it's this weird kind of like, it's this touch point, right? That there's nothing else I think like it. Like, I think you can say that about a lot of things, but I think like it is true to say like there really isn't a TV show, animated sitcom that is like The Simpsons in that way. And so I think that is one of the things that has always drawn me to the franchise, and also drawn me back. I will say I haven't gone back and watched any like many newer episodes. I probably have watched fewer newer episodes I think than you have, although I find myself wanting to a lot, and then just kind of, I'm bad about watching TV to be quite honest. So but I really find the desire a lot of the times to go watch some of the newer episodes, which is just, it's such a wild thing, because it's like, again, like this was with us in our childhood, and not to say that like you can't continue to enjoy things that you enjoyed in your childhood, but it's just it's continued on in such a way that it's like it's very much the same flavor. Like it's the same, it hasn't become a much different thing, whereas other things that are as long lasting as The Simpsons have.
Well, it's like it's different in a lot of ways in that it is a very different show in terms of like the humor, just because time changes, but like in that the structure of it's still the same Simpson family, and and there really hasn't been that many changes to the supporting cast, know. And even as the look of the show has evolved, it's still like technically the same character designs and stuff. Like, I know what you mean. It is a weird thing. Like even something like Looney Tunes, for example, obviously is a very long lasting pop culture institution animated thing, but Looney Tunes has been rebooted and redesigned and restructured multiple times, like there's been multiple Looney Tunes shows and movies that have existed. The Simpsons has always been this one singular show with the same cast, even a lot of the same staff behind it. There's never been like here's the new attempt at the Simpsons but X, like, for a while, and that gets canceled, and then there's another reboot and then a return to the classic style of Simpsons. Like, it's always just been the Simpsons, even as much as it changed and evolved. And maybe that's to its detriment. Maybe it would have benefited from, like, ending at one point and then taking a break and restarting or something like that. I think there's plenty of arguments of, like, the show itself, and that you, like, can't really argue that it's, like, the best show ever made necessarily, because many chunks of it aren't actually very good, but the chunks of it that are very good, it's still, like, almost 10 straight years of, like, some of the best television that's ever been made. So maybe you could actually argue that it's one of the best TV shows ever made. I think that I would, but, like, it's just with an asterisk next to it, and I haven't seen, like, entire seasons of the show. So what do I know ultimately? But yeah, it's a weird thing to exist in the way that it does. And I think that's, like, not to create a segue, because I don't know if there's more to say in this topic, but, like, I think that is reflected well in how it's reflected in video games, especially in, like, how many that are made and how hard it seems to be really to, like, gamify The Simpsons in a way that is actually, like, successful based on my sparse knowledge of Simpsons video games, Yeah,
I think that, so one, wonderful segue. Two, I will draw back just slightly, just because when you were thinking of other like long-lasting shows, the first thing that came to mind when you said Looney Tunes, I thought of Doctor Who, and then I thought about, like, them regenerating The Simpsons, like going through that process. But yeah, I think that's a perfect segue. And obviously, we're not here to talk. We are here to talk about The Simpsons, but we're here to talk about The Simpsons in a specific platform, we'll call it. So before we jump into Simpsons games themselves, I thought it would be interesting just to take a couple minutes to maybe talk about, because both of us are gamers. Like, we like to be called gamers. That's what we refer to ourselves as, is that we are both gamers.
Please do not ever call me a gamer.
But
offended.
But the other thing is that, it is one of those things that it is fascinating. We've played as few Simpsons games, I think, as we have, being that we both do play video games and we're Simpsons enjoyers. So I thought it would be fun to just maybe talk a little bit about what we enjoy in terms of video games. Maybe anything that you think would be interesting to the listeners. And I'm happy to kick off while you think a little bit. But I've just been thinking about some of what I've been doing gaming wise recently and some of, like, my top genres. And I think this will help kind of, like, see where our interests are going to lie in some of these video games. Just knowing like what we like to play. So one, I mean, I think that I grew up playing platformer video games. So, like, your classic Super Mario games, like anyone, I think, our age, Super Mario Bros, the whole trilogy, Super Mario Land. Those were kind of like my bread and butter growing up. And I'm finding, as I've gotten a lot older, that I still really enjoy that genre of game. Like, even the newest, like Super Mario Wonder is such a phenomenal game. I really, like, loved that. And then games that offer something, I think there's that aspect of it. And those tend to be less story-driven games. So that's kind of like one category. I also really enjoy games that have, like, a lot more story elements, obviously. I think, I was an English major. Not that has anything to do with why I would enjoy story-driven games, but
I think there's a through line, though, like appreciating the artistry of crafting a narrative in a video game, because it's a very particular way to craft a narrative when you're making a video game. For sure.
Yeah. And I think that, that's another one, is like, and a lot of the ones that I've gravitated towards recently have been Soulsborne games.
Can you explain what a Soulsborne game is for
oh my God.
those of us who are not super, who aren't hardcore gamers like you are?
Gamers like us, Derek.
Yeah.
We're both gamers with a Z. The reason I laughed was because I literally, like, was Googling the definition of Soulsborne earlier today for a dumb reason. But so there's a very popular game called Dark Souls, or Demon Souls, I guess, was the first one, that was developed by FromSoft, which is a pretty prolific name in the gaming community for making very difficult action RPGs. Like that, what it boils down to is that they're action RPGs at their core, and they have. When you use the term Soulsborne typically refers to any game developed by that studio typically. So Souls coming from the Demon Dark Souls game, and then one of their other game series, which is Bloodborne. So Souls and then Born just kind of shoved together. They've made stuff, games like Elden Ring, Bloodborne was the other one, Sekiro, things like that, where it's just pretty punishingly tough games, but they have very rich stories, but they're not like super omnipresent. And what I mean by that is you have to do a lot of work to find out what's going on in the world some of the time. So a lot of what is in the story is written in item descriptions and things that you find throughout the world. So like you can get pieces of one puzzle here and then pieces of another puzzle there, all while you're just like kind of getting your ass handed to you by like various different foes and things like that. So it's kind of interesting that I went from saying story-driven games and then talking about these Soulsborne games because they're not usually like I would argue that the stories in some like the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring especially are very, very good, but they're not like, I don't think people would look to those as your typical story-driven game, but I like how they're presented in that kind of fashion. And those have been the ones that I've kind of gravitated towards recently. I don't think there's any Simpsons Soulsborne, or Souls-like is the other term that people use, is a game that's not made by From Software, but is like their games.
Gotcha.
But I would love to see a Simpsons Soulsborne game or Souls-like game.
God, what would I even look like?
I don't know. I mean, there is the arcade game, right? Like if there's probably a way to like redo the arcade game to just make it even tougher, even though it actually is very tough to begin with. But that's kind of what I'm on right now. What about you? What's your gaming habits? How did you grow up on video games?
Yeah. I think the way I grew up on video games, I think maybe will explain a lot for why I played so few of the Simpsons games. So like when I grew up with Atari and the original NES because my parents got that because they thought it was cool and it was new.
Oh yeah.
And we also had like a DOS computer, so I played some games on that too. But then they never bought us any gaming systems after that for a very long time. So, because rightfully, like, games are fucking expensive. And I think it was sort of like, well, y'all got these games right here, so why do we need to buy more? You can play Mario over and over and over again, and that's fine. You seem to enjoy it. So, I kind of missed like Super Nintendo generation, any Sega stuff. Like to this day, I don't think I've ever played a Sega game on a Sega game. I played like maybe a Sonic emulator once or twice, but I've never played on any Sega console ever in my life, I don't think. Maybe if I did, it would have been at a friend's house or something once, but I don't have like a vivid memory. I do have memories of like playing friends' Super Nintendos and like playing the Power Rangers game on Super Nintendo, you know, but obviously like playing at a friend's house is different than your own. I never had a good enough friend growing up during that era to like play a lot of them. So I really had a whole gap of not playing any sort of games beyond NES. And then I got a Game Boy Advance as a gift because of a really bad operation that I had to have. That was what finally broke the barrier and got my parents to buy me another console. And that was my first and to this day only handheld console until, Switch came out.
You traded your appendix for a Game Boy Advance. Basically.
It wasn't my appendix, but I did have my ear totally cut off.
Oh
and,
gosh!
And my eardrum restructured, and then had it all sewn back on for that Game Boy Advance. So I think it was worth it ultimately.
Oh, well, I wasn't the one who had the procedure, so I'll let you say whether it was worth it.
I got a lot of time to play Super Mario Advance 2.
Which that game
that day, which is really good.
That Advance 2 is the one...
that Super Mario Land remake, I think, is what it essentially is.
Is that the one with the cape? Super Mario World? Super Mario World.
Or World. Yeah. It's World, not Land. Sorry. I mean, I don't fucking know. They're all the same. They all have the same name.
We could go on a tangent about the naming of the Super Mario Advance games, but we won't.
Yeah, but that was the one with the cape, Super Mario World. Yeah, that's what it was, it is really good. That game rules. but so I played a ton on Game Boy Advance, but never got another Game Boy after that. I don't know how the timelines match up, but like I never had a PlayStation 1 until PlayStation 2 came out. And then my parents were like, if you want to buy a used PlayStation 1 from the neighbor and you save up money to do that, you can do that. We're never going to buy you that, just so you know. So I was like, all right, I guess that's what I have to do. So I saved up money to buy a PS1 on the cheap for my neighbor after PS2 was already out to finally sort of catch up on a lot of the games that I had missed. That is one where I did have a good friend who had a PlayStation. So I was at his house playing PS1 games a lot until I finally got one. But by the time I finally got one, it was like so late into the life of it that I was still way behind. And so it literally wasn't until college when, I'm actually making my own money that I got like an Xbox 360. And from that point forward, I was current on at least one console at a time for the rest of my life. So, I feel like there's a lot of gaps in my gaming experience and a lot of stuff that I've like retroactively, caught back up on, which is kind of fun because that means I can get like Chrono Trigger, for example, one of my favorite games of all time. I didn't play that until I was like a full ass adult, and I'm playing it on an emulator, and it's sort of like, but I can know for sure, like there's no nostalgia here. This is like me experiencing it and appreciating it like for actually how good it actually is.
For sure. And honestly, some games like that, it's better, right? Like not saying like
I think I appreciate it more older. When I was a kid, I think I would have probably struggled with playing a JRPG, especially if that was my first one. I mean, Chrono Trigger is like, I think probably one of the easier JRPGs to pick up because it's so well made, but I don't know that I would have appreciated like the artistry of it and everything and played it as well as it would have as an adult,
Yeah. And I was going to say too, I think, your PS1 story, I think that was a good console pickup anyway, because like I think the PS1 catalog, and I don't know how many games you ended up getting for PS1, but
I got quite a few.
Yeah. But it still like I think even while the PS2 was out, like it was still like the PS1 was still a great console, like all things considered.
That's sort of my gaming narrative. I think now what a lot of my favorites are, I do tend to get more attracted to narrative driven games, not necessarily like the ones that are like, I know that there's games that are like literally just like you play a movie, and I don't usually play those so much. It's more like Mass Effect. The Mass Effect series I think is definitely my number one favorite game series, game singular, games plural. And that for me is sort of the perfect fusion of like something very narrative driven, very character focused. I really get like so invested in those games and those characters and that world and the story that's being told over the course of the trilogy, right? Like that's exactly like right where I want to be, because it's that with like RPG elements and some action elements and stuff. I think I'm the type of gamer, I'm probably very like very normie when it comes to a lot of stuff where like I don't like games to be super ridiculously challenging. I just don't. I get it. I get the fun of a challenge and like dying a lot and figuring it out. Like I understand why that's satisfying. And I think maybe if I had like no other hobbies and just had all the time in the world, maybe I would play Elden Ring and enjoy it. But like I know that I would get frustrated and not ever. And I wouldn't. I don't feel compelled enough to devote the amount of time it is to become satisfied and push through the frustration, if that makes sense.
And here's the thing, I will say, there was a very like specific moment that it took for me to even like understand. Like I think when Dark Souls first came out, I got it on like 360, and I like I was like, I don't want to do this. Like I was like, this is awful. Why would it? I was like, this is the hardest game ever made, and I was just like, I don't want to touch this again. And it took playing Bloodborne for me to like understand, like, anyway, we won't go down that route. This isn't a podcast about Souls-like games until someone makes a Simpsons Souls-like, which I'm actually now really invested in happening.
I mean, I've heard some of those Game Boy games are kind of hard, so maybe you can argue one of those are very Souls-like. That's what I'm worried about. Is there's some of them where I'm like, I might have zero fun playing it, because that's my thing, is like, if there is a good enough narrative, maybe I'm willing to push through like bad gameplay or something, or frustrating gameplay. But if there's like not much a narrative and it's just like hard puzzles or platforming, whatever, like I'm not gonna enjoy it. I'm just gonna, because like I am very much like, I have to actively be having fun, and like feeling frustrated is not fun enough for me. I wasn't really into a lot of platformers even on the PlayStation. Like I never got into like Crash Bandicoot and stuff, even recognizing how good those games are. They're also very hard platformers.
And they're frustratingly like,
and I'm bad at them, like I recognize that. So,
and I also think, that's actually a perfect segue, because I think that there, especially in some of the eras that we're going to go through, there are very much these, the like level curve or the difficulty curve is sometimes just like a wall. Like there's sometimes just like, parts in these games, and like Crash Bandicoot, when you mentioned that was the first one that came to mind, of like, there's sometimes just levels that are so much more difficult than the other ones. Like it's a spike, like the difficulty curve is. And I think that's something that we probably will see as we're going through a lot of these games. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about like what it is, we like to do when we're playing games, because I think that's going to inform part of our next exercise and overall how we're going to feel throughout this whole process. Right. So just to give the listeners a little bit of what we're going to cover and what to expect. So I mentioned this before. There are 22 games that span 21 years that we're going to cover.
What? Why are you doing this to me? Because if I tap you 10 times in this game, I get free donuts. Are you saying I'm not real? I'm just a character in a game?
It's Bart versus the Space Mutants for your NES.
No, it's Bart versus the world.
Bart versus the Juggernaut. Bartman meets Radioactive Man.
Portable Bartmania in Escape from Camp Deadly.
Don't forget Krusty's Funhouse.
Time for some road rage, Simpsons style.
Look for a winning Simpsons video game for every system.
Considering that a lot of these games like came out like in the same year, right? So it isn't like there was a game a year. Yeah, it's very front loaded. And then there starts to be just like a dropping off point.
And there hasn't been one in like over 10 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Simpsons Tapped Out is the last one that we'll cover, which is a mobile game, which came out in 2012, right? Like
that's wild.
It is.
That was so long ago.
It is fascinating to me, and I wonder. I don't know anything going into this, but I wonder if there's like just something that we're going to find like when we get to some of the later games of like it just wasn't profitable enough for them or anything like that. They weren't selling as well. I mean, it would make sense, right? Like it, but I will say, well, we'll talk about it. I think some of the better games are at the end, right? Like I think
tie-in games have kind of gone out the door in a lot of ways though, because it's like, I mean, if you can, how many tie-in games do you see for anything anymore?
Right.
Like the fact that the MCU is a thing and you never see, there's zero actual Marvel Cinematic Universe tie-in games, even though you'd think that would be such a shoe-in for them. But like, even like something like Disney that could very easily churn out whatever the fuck game they want, like doesn't do that. And any Marvel games that have come out have been like marketably made to like not be a tie-in to the big movie franchise. When tie-in games to movies used to be just a given all the time. Like I think that maybe The Simpsons is just part of a declining trend of just studios just not being interested in probably movie studios not being interested in soliciting that stuff, and game studios not feeling like it's profitable to license out, these big movie things for games that usually end up not being very good, that probably have too much oversight, too much creative control from movie studios that makes the games worse, and then people complain about them and nobody buys them anyway. So,
I feel like we're doing a lot of unintentional foreshadowing here because
I'm excited to get to I mean, because it's going to be a while before we get to that, but I think that's thinking about what the arc might end up being, or predicting what the arc is potentially going to be, I think could be kind of fun, because I think that we're right on the money, but maybe as we do research and play these, we'll be surprised.
I think that's spot on. And speaking of we're just full of segues. Predicting one of the things I thought would be fun for us to do when we kind of talked about this project initially. I think I was kind of like, I think it would make sense as a mini series, right? Like, because they're not going to make any more Simpsons games. I mean, I would be shocked if they did. I mean, there's still a possibility, but like,
there might be another mobile game, but I cannot imagine there being like a console game or PC game anytime ever again. You know?
And so I think that gives us a really unique opportunity, right, to kind of go in, see what our expectations are up front, both for what we're expecting when we go through this process, and then also at the end, kind of see how those expectations aligned and see what we learned along the way.
Sure.
So I think one of the ways that we can do that is doing one of the really fun gamer exercises, which is craft a tier list, which I'm really excited about because I've never actually done a tier list. And if anyone's not familiar with a tier list, it's not a new phenomenon. Like, you've ranked things for decades, but like there's templates online now where you can make your own, kind of like craft your own tier list of bubbly sodas and, rank them accordingly and have your friends rank them. And so it's just sort of a ranking scale where you can group multiple things by a rank. It goes from S tier all the way down to D tier. I just stuck with the main ranking systems. The other thing I was going to say that would be fun for any listeners that want to play along with us. This is a template that I can share out. And so what I'll do is I'll link it in the show notes for this episode. And then I will, you can share it with us. I think that would be really fun if you share it out and then tag us on social, just to kind of, and you can either do it if you've played all the Simpsons games and you already have your definitive ranking, or if you've not played a single one and you just kind of want to see what your expectations are. I think that would just be a fun exercise.
Sure.
And then the only other thing I will caveat before we jump into doing this ranking is that there are a couple of games that we won't be covering in their own episodes. We'll find a place to talk about these, but there's a couple mobile games that came out on like touchpad phones, like actual like pre-smartphone mobile games, which I'm sure there's a way to find them, but like,
why would we do that?
Yeah, and so there's the Simpsons Minutes to Meltdown and then Itchy and Scratchy Land, which honestly do kind of sound interesting, but we'll talk about them at some point, I promise. They will come up. And then the other one is the Simpsons Bowling, which was an arcade game, which uses like a special like arcade rolling thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We could do like a miscellaneous episode one day, just if it feels right.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
The other thing I should note too is that like I said, we don't have very much experience with a lot of these games. I went through the list and I've played, I think, a total of 5, and playing is being very generous, I think. Like, there's some of them that like I probably touched like very briefly, and that was it.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you know how many offhand you've played?
I know. I can tell you right now. Do you want to know?
Yeah.
Simpsons arcade game, Simpsons wrestling, Tapped Out. That's it. Only games I've ever played.
Nice.
Most of these games I've literally never even heard of, to be honest. And the ones that I had heard of, I hadn't heard really particularly good things. So, so many of mine are going to be based on vibes alone, or like a little tiny bit that I've just sort of heard, or if the box art is ugly or not.
Yeah.
Like, that's really going to be what it comes down to right now.
Right?
So
I mean, there's not really much else to go on. So, and I will say I did the descriptions. I did base them off of just like Wikipedia. That's basically it. So we will kick things off, and this is one that we both have played, but we are going to play again. And I think
I'm excited to play it again.
Yeah, me too. And we're actually, for the listener, so it's the Simpsons arcade game. That's the first Simpsons game released. We're going to actually go to a local arcade and play it on a goddamn arcade cabinet.
Hell
like,
yeah.
Civilized people. I don't know. But yeah, so that's going to be the first one that we're going to cover after this. In terms of rankings, Derek, where do you think this one falls?
S tier. This is going to be I can already tell you, this is going to be the only one I rank S tier.
Yeah.
Because I think that, I mean, it an arcade game is obviously it's on its own sort of curve, right?
Yeah.
Like what you're expecting from an arcade game, and this is one that I have like played like relatively recently-ish, like in the last, I don't know, 5 years or whatever, just from barcades that I've been to. Like if they have it, I'm going to play it.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I know that it's a good game, and I'm not particularly good at it. I don't think I've ever actually like finished it, but like it doesn't matter because it's an arcade game. It's made to just like be fun and something you can just play over and over again while you're having beers in a crowded room, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it accomplishes that. And I think that every other game, even the ones that are good, I think are always either going to be like a little bit dated or maybe have something sort of janky about them in a way that I think is just not going to let them be on the same level as this game. So that my only choice for S tier is going to be the arcade game.
I listen, I'm here for that. I agree with you on S tier on that one. I also I think we may even have to like make a rank above S tier, which is like Simpsons tier, which is like the definitive Simpsons game. And I think that may end up being like the choice for that
S
game.
tier could literally just stand for Simpsons tier.
That's true.
Unless you had another one that's above A but below Simpson tier.
Yep.
Which I can guess what that would be if you do, but I don't know. We'll see if I actually agree.
And just for anybody who wants to hear my little description, it's an arcade beat 'em up where the Simpsons family must rescue a kidnapped Maggie. That's all I put. I tried to make them very, very short. Next up, we had the same year, 1991, Bart versus the Space Mutants. This was released for the NES, and it is a platformer where Bart is the only person who can stop secret aliens from taking over the world.
C tier?
It feels so. Here's what I'll say. I think
most of my choices are going to be C tier, and B tier is usually going to be reserved for the ones that like sound particularly interesting. But C tier is probably going to be like the majority of these for me.
I'm okay with C tier. I would argue this one for possibly D tier. It's the first. Well, it's the first one on the NES. Like I just don't think that they are gonna have gotten much right about it. Like I just don't. Also, it's like when you think about like in terms of like it's a Simpsons game, it's like Bart fighting space aliens. Like what are we doing? Like it could be a fine game, but like as a Simpsons tie-in game, it feels like it's more just like capitalizing on the Simpsons as opposed to like capturing like the essence.
That is true. I think that's going to be a conversation that I'll be curious for how that conversation comes up across the podcast of like how you judge it. Cause it's like, you can have a good game, but like the metric for a Simpsons game, I don't even really know what that metric is at this point, because if the majority of Simpsons games that exist like aren't funny, then like, can you judge it on comedy,
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. That'll be a fun thing to discover as we're doing this.
We'll keep this one in C tier. I think D tier is probably too harsh. But yeah, we as we kind of filter through, we can also like bump stuff down if we feel like it as well. Next up is Bart's Escape from Camp Deadly. This was released for the Game Boy and was also released in 91. So, all right, this one I
think D tier.
I don't think there's another game. Well, okay, so the only saving grace I think that this game is going to have going for it. Oh, I didn't even read the description, did I? Here it is. It's a platformer featuring Bart and Lisa ending up at a deadly camp.
Sound familiar? Yeah. Here's my like controversial take that I will watch Camp Krusty again before we do this one, but of like classic era Simpsons, of like the ones that are held in the highest regard, Camp Krusty's never been particularly high on my list.
Oh, me either.
Like I recognize it as like any golden era episode of The Simpsons is going to be like good, no matter like better than most TV that's ever existed. But if I'm ever putting like for me, Camp Krusty like never did anything for me really. It's just sort of like, okay, that's another episode of The Simpsons. Yeah. And then you read that it's like this was almost the movie or whatever, and I'm like, they went to a summer camp that was bad. Like what? Okay, it was funny, I guess, but like so to do to a game, like kind of a game version of that, whether it was like a coincidence or intentional adaptation or not, I can't imagine being very invested in that.
I cannot either. And also it was original Game Boy, which like, listen, I loved my Game Boy Color. there are some really tough to play original Game Boy games, like to this day. Even like Mario, I think it's like the first Mario Land that came out on the Game Boy, like is just like, it's such a tough game. So I'm fine with that one sticking there in D tier. After that, we have, and let me make sure I don't lose my spot again, Bart versus the World. So this was released in 1991 as well. This is, and for the NES, so another NES game. This is a platformer where Bart participates in a rigged scavenger hunt. There's your description.
I don't know anything about Game Gear, so I don't know like what it's but I mean, as an NES game, I don't know, C tier maybe.
Oh yeah, and I should mention I'm only calling out like the first release. Some of these were re-released on. No. That's a good call out. Some of these were re-released or released on additional platforms and things like that. So yeah, this one did have another release on the. I don't know when this one was released on the Game Gear and the Atari ST. I don't even know what that is. I'll be quite honest with you.
Didn't even know they made more Ataris in 91 actually.
I feel like just because like our C and D tier are probably going to fill up a lot. I think. Did you say B tier for this one?
No, I said C tier.
C tier. I think that's fair. I would. There is and again, I'm trying to go into a lot of these fresh, so I've done research on these, and so I know a little bit about the plot. There is a little bit more of like a Simpsons plot in this game, but it's
fun. Okay.
Kind of, but but it also like I don't think it's like a through line through, or it doesn't. It's a through line throughout the game, but it doesn't like it's not apparent throughout the game, if that makes sense.
I would be okay with predicting it for B tier just based on you saying that alone, that there is a plot at all that isn't Bart fighting aliens.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with putting that in B tier.
Now the next one, this one is Bart's House of Weirdness. This one I actually think could be a sleeper pick. For a game that we actually end up liking. So Bart's House of Weirdness was released in 1992. It's a platformer where Bart is grounded after pulling too many pranks. And it was actually released for PC. This was a PC game. Without spoiling too much, I will let you know that there is a cool and uncool meter in this game.
I think just it being a PC game from 92 alone makes me feel like there will probably be some interesting stuff in it. So let's put it in B.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Yeah. Cause I just think also too, one of the other things that's going to happen, I think, as we're doing this podcast is that we're just going to like naturally hit, and you can already see it, right? Like every single game outside of the arcade game has been Bart. Like we're gonna hit a Bart wall.
Well, there was a thing called Bart Mania in around 91 and 92, so
yep.
That checks out.
Which is why the next game is refreshing. It is actually Krusty's Funhouse. So this was released in May of 1992, and it is a puzzle game where Krusty must exterminate rats in his funhouse. Think Reverse Lemmings.
I don't know. First like, and they had like a Super NES version of it too. I think that could be, because it feels.
Oh like yeah, sorry. This is Super. Yeah, this one is Super NES. I should say it was on the Super NES. I think it was on. Oh yeah, it was on NES as well. Game Boy. Yeah. Gosh.
So it might be a port to Super NES. So I wonder. Okay, that makes me question it a little bit. I feel like there's potential for that one to be not the worst. I'm gonna say C.
C tier. I feel good about C tier for that one as well. This might be one that when we redo this list potentially gets bumped down because it is a puzzle game. And I don't.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I'm curious. Here's the thing. I don't know how. Well, I've not played a lot of puzzle games, I should say, in like this era, so I just don't know how they're gonna work, right? Like, I just have no frame of reference for it outside of like Tetris, right? Like, so it'll just be interesting to see. It's either gonna be, I feel like it could either be really bad or just a refreshing change of pace from Bart Mania.
Yeah, for sure.
And then speaking of Bart Mania, we're back to Bart. We have a double tie-in game in a sense. So it's Bart versus the Juggernauts. Have you ever heard of this game, Derek?
No, I haven't heard of most of these, to be honest. But
so this game is an action / minigame game that features essentially the American Gladiators. So
weird.
It was not only capitalizing on the popularity of The Simpsons in 1992, it was capitalizing on the popularity of American Gladiators in 1992. And this was purely a Game Boy game. So mini games and American Gladiators.
My gut is C, but the fact that it's like an American Gladiators game makes me wonder if it might end up actually be a B. Like it might actually be a fun action game that just happens to like have Bart in it for some reason. Let's go with C though, because I feel like it's more likely.
It's possible. I mean, the most likely thing is they're all D tier.
Yeah, the most likely is a lot of these are shit. So we'll see.
But I think you're right. I think listen, mini games. I think at the end of the day, like even if we don't like complete the whole game, it's like, oh, I really liked this mini game and this mini game. You know, I feel good about the game overall, but I hated everything else. I feel like sometimes that can outweigh like the negative when you have a lot of different things to choose from. But again, no idea how it works. So maybe you have to play through all the awful ones too, which would not be great.
Yeah.
Cool. After that, and also in 1992, again, they just cranked these out.
Wild.
We have Bart's Nightmare. So this is released for the Super NES, and it is an action platformer where Bart has to collect his lost homework or fail class.
This is one that I think I did hear about. That I think this is the one that's like just impossible to play because it's just so hard. If I'm remembering the right one, I might be misremembering, but I think this is the one. I'm going to go with D for this one.
I
disagree.
Oh, no, I was going to say, like, I was trying to think if I have anything to add to that, but I know nothing. So I don't have anything to add or disagree. Cool. I think that a lot of these, I think my prediction is that a lot of these, some of these games are going to follow very similar trajectories. And so I think, throw it in D tier, like, to be honest.
Cool.
So that was Bart's Nightmare. After that, we have Bartman Meets Radioactive Man, released in December of 1992. It is a platformer with Bart. Okay, fine. I'll give you more. It's a platformer where Bart enters a comic book to rescue Radioactive Man.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Put it in C tier.
I would be willing to even maybe dump that in B tier, simply because, like, I don't know. I feel like that feels Simpsons-y, right? Like,
yeah, we can do B tier. Let's do B tier for it. We're gonna have a lot of C tier.
Yeah, we have no A tiers right now, too. By the way, I think some of those are coming up.
Yeah, I think so.
I think some of those are coming up. All right, and then we have. And I don't know if I said what consoles that released on. That was on NES and I have NES and Game Gear. Yeah, NES and Game Gear. Yeah,
cool,
sweet.
This next one, I have so many questions about.
Bart and the Beanstalk. This was released in February of 1994, so there was a little bit of a jump there. Went from 92 to 94. This is a platformer where Bart sells the family cow, but is swindled by Mr. Burns and gets magic beans and a slingshot.
Like there isn't a treehouse that I'm forgetting about. That was it. Like this is completely out of nowhere, isn't it?
Your guess is as good as mine, man. I truly don't understand why we have a Jack and the Beanstalk featuring Bart as a game.
Here's my thing. I think that it's going to make no sense, but I think this could also be a little bit of a sleeper in that it's so bizarre and weird that it might end up circling back and being kind of inspired, maybe. That's my weird contrarian take on that one.
I'm happy to make that weird contrarian prediction. We want to put that in B tier?
Let's still keep it in C tier.
Not B for Bart and Beanstalk? So many B's.
Let's put it in C tier.
All right. Yeah, I think that makes total sense. I would argue for D tier just because, like I said, man, the Game Boy games are just going to be...
Yeah, they're going to be rough.
They're going to be rough. There's one that I think is going to be fun. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm realizing we're sounding very negative about this. I'm actually really excited to play.
But it's because a lot of I am too, but I think I do think we're going to see
Yeah.
You know, just genuine capitalistic cash in on Bart Mania is what a lot of these are. And that doesn't always yield the best, the best art. I will just put it that way.
Yeah.
So that's my expectation.
That is fair. And speaking of Bart Mania, we have Bart again in 1994. This is Virtual Bart for the Super NES. It also came out on the Genesis. This is a mix of platformer and mini games where Bart gets trapped inside a virtual reality machine.
I don't know.
So here's what I'll say. I saw a little bit more of this game when I was trying to do these tiny descriptions, because it was hard to just like glean from like the resources, like what it was actually about and what was happening. And it's there's some stuff that happens in this game that I wouldn't have expected. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say too much to spoil the fun. But I will say that there's a point at which Bart turns into a pig and you play as Pig Bart.
I kind of love that.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
sounds
it's
really cool.
It's kind of cool, right? Like, at first I was like, "What the hell?" But then I was like, "You know what? No, that kind of is fun." I would be fine putting this one in B tier.
Let's try it out. Let's try B tier.
See, our B tier is actually getting way more full than actually.
C tier. Let's do C tier.
Let's C tier it. Yeah, let's C tier it. I feel like whenever I see like the B tier and the C tier like equaling out, I'm like, something's not right.
B and C tier is like kind of hard because they're like kind of around the same level, you know, like they're both mid tier, so it's kind of weird.
I totally agree. Okay, and then we have, and I might have these backwards in the order that I'm doing them, but we have, Itchy and Scratchy in Miniature Golf Madness. This is a mini golf platformer? ? Where Scratchy tries to play mini golf while Itchy tries to kill him. That was released on the Game Boy. This is the game, when I said earlier that one of the Game Boy games is going to be fun. This is the one that I saw a little bit of gameplay of this.
Sounds really fun.
I'm actually kind of excited to play this game.
Let's do B tier for that one.
I think this goes in B tier. Also too, because it's such a different formula. Like, it's unexpected. It's also Itchy and Scratchy, so it's kind of its own thing. And yeah, like, I don't know, it just sounds fun.
Yeah. I'm here for that.
And then after that, we have the Itchy and Scratchy game, which was released in. Also, I've realized I whiffed on the years for these past couple. But Itchy and Scratchy in Mini Golf Madness was 1995, and then the Itchy and Scratchy game is also 1995. This was released for the SNES. It's listed as having been released for the Genesis, but I believe it actually never made it to the Sega Genesis. But there's a playable version of it that exists or something like that. So regardless, Super NES era, it is a platformer that doesn't include Bart.
I feel like for an Itchy and Scratchy Super NES game, if it was good, we would have heard about it. And I've never heard of this game, which leads you to believe it's bad.
That's true. Yeah, I think you're right.
You know what I mean? Like Super NES, like people our age, if it was a good Super NES game that was a Simpsons game, our friends would have played it and we would have seen it or something. You know, like I don't know about you. I'd literally never even heard of this.
No, I hadn't either. I did see a little bit of like visuals from it, and it looks cool. But you're right. Like the fact that, and I try to avoid like any like reviews and stuff like that. We'll cover that on the podcast, but going into this, because I don't want to like be spoiled on like what's good and what's bad. But no, I think you're actually right. I think actually that leads me to C tier for that one, because
let's do C tier.
I think it's like it has potential to be good, but it also, you're right, we'd never heard about it. So what's the deal? Yeah. The next one I'm really excited to talk about. And I think we've talked about this one before, but it is the Simpsons Cartoon Studio, which was released in 1996. It was released for Windows, and it is a multimedia game. That's redundant, but a multimedia game where you can make your own Simpsons short films.
Okay. I've never played this one. I have played the Spider-Man Cartoon Studio game. That's like exactly the same thing. That game was so fucking fun.
Dude.
I'm so excited. I know that there's trouble finding a way to play this one, but like even just to like see it potentially on screen, I'm so excited.
Just first off say I I played the hell out of this. I don't even think I had the full game. I'm pretty sure I had the demo for it, and I just like replayed the demo like endlessly. And then there was a point in time, and I don't want to, we'll talk about this when we do this episode, but there was a point in time where I actually like re-downloaded the demo like years later and tried it out, and I was like, this is fucking cool. I would argue this for either A tier or S tier, but I think A tier is fair.
Yeah, I'm going to say A tier.
And then right after that, we have another kind of like, not kind of a game, but not really a game. We have Virtual Springfield, which was released in 1997. This is I classified it as a pseudo point and click, even though I don't think that's really a fair description.
Sure.
Where you just explore Springfield. It's literally just exploring around Springfield.
I'm pretty sure this is one that I know a little bit about, I think, but I've never played it myself. I think that Phil Hartman voices Troy McClure in it.
Oh, sweet.
And that alone makes me want to put it in A tier.
Ooh, okay. It's funny because I was going to swing for G tier for this.
No, I think because it's probably not going to be much of a game, but I think that probably means it's going to be like a nicely written little mini Simpsons tour. Like,
you know what?
You know what I mean?
That's
like, I think it'll
fair.
just be a funny, enjoyable thing, and you don't have to deal with shitty gameplay.
And it'll be one of the few games where we get like, well, I shouldn't say few, but we're going to get like more Simpsons jokes per capita than like previous games.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a breath of fresh air after months of Game Boy games. So.
After months of Bartmania, man.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I like A tier for that one as well. And then we have a big jump in time. So we go from 1997 to 2001. I want to double check that, but I think that's right. 2001, which was Night of the Living Treehouse of Horror. And this was released for the Game Boy Color, which that was the other thing that tripped me up. I was like, Game Boy Color games were still being made in 2001, but I guess they would have been, yeah.
When did Game Boy Advance come out? Like 2002, 2003, I think?
Yeah, So
yeah, I guess that makes sense. It does feel late. But yeah, no, that makes sense because I remember playing on my friend's Game Boy Color because I didn't have one.
And this one, I will say, this is a platformer that lets you play through Treehouse of Horror episodes.
That sounds really like bananas that had not been done until 2000.
I know. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think that there's a good shot at this one actually being good.
I think so too. I'm here to put this one in A tier.
You think? Okay. Maybe B tier.
B tier.
B tier.
I don't know. I love a Game Boy Color game. I will when we'll see. We'll see. I think
I don't know.
I think it's most likely going to end up in B tier, so I think it's totally fair to put it there. I think it's going to be fun though.
Yeah, I think we'll like that one.
After that, we have in 2001, and this is one I believe you have played. It is Simpsons Wrestling. So this is a wrestling game where you can duke it out with the members of the Simpsons family and residents of Springfield.
Okay, so like, I know this one has a reputation for being a bad game. Everybody thinks that, and honestly, I think everyone's right, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I do think that even if the gameplay and like graphics in it are bad, like just for being able to play different Simpsons characters and see their weird ass like moves. Like I remember how weird this game could kind of be. Mm-hmm. And, you know, hearing their voices as they just like, as like Marge like throws Maggie at like Moe or whatever, like that kind of, I think that even if it's not technically a quote unquote good game, I feel like we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm actually I want to put that in B tier, even though the whole world would probably disagree with that.
Listen,
I want to put it in B tier, even if it's just for nostalgia.
You don't have to convince me to rate a wrestling game highly. I love a fucking wrestling game. I grew up on wrestling, and this was, and we'll talk about this, was probably at the height of some of the really fun wrestling arcs. So it's just capitalizing on, you know, the moment. So I think this is one of the games that I counted in my I have played, and this is one of the ones that I think I played a very, very tiny bit of. I think we might have like rented it once, and I didn't play a ton of it, which probably doesn't really speak too highly of what I thought about it at the time.
Yeah,
but I mean, I will say
it's not much of a wrestling game.
Yeah,
is the thing.
So that probably was it. It was like, you know, also too, there were other wrestling games that released around the time, so competing with those, you know, makes it a little bit difficult. But that's not what we're doing. We're not comparing this to other wrestling games. We're comparing it to other Simpsons games. And then we have The Simpsons Road Rage, which was released in November 20th, 2001. I don't know why I just randomly started saying the months. This was released on the PS2, Xbox, GameCube. And funny enough, there's a Game Boy Advance version of this as well that was released later, which we'll talk about when we do the episode, but we're not going to cover it separately as a game.
Okay.
It is Crazy Taxi, but The Simpsons. Have you played this one?
No.
Oh, Derek.
I don't know.
I will say, because I have played this one, I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. I think this is going to be a fun one for us to play. I think of this era of Simpsons games. So, and when I say this era of Simpsons games, I'm talking from wrestling, Road Rage, and then the next 3 that we're going to cover. I think this is probably going to end up being, this might even be like the second best of that era in my estimation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's
interesting.
It's a fun game. But I also haven't played it in a long time, so I could just be putting a lot of nostalgia on it. I would make an argument for A tier for this one.
Okay, go for it.
Literally, your objective is to deliver residents to different places around Springfield. There's jokes. And there's different cars and stuff like that you unlock. I mean, which is kind of cool.
Sounds good to me. That's exactly what I would want from a Crazy Taxi but Simpsons game. I've actually never played Crazy Taxi either, so I don't even really know what that means. But
I
know roughly you can in Crazy Taxi you pick people up and then you get to do fun stuff with the car. But, I feel like that's the gist, right?
So if you ever played any of the GTA delivery missions where you go from point A to point B, it's that as a whole game. That's
okay,
it.
Cool. Sounds fun.
And then we have The Simpsons Skateboarding. It was also released this one was released in 2002, and it is Tony Hawk but The Simpsons.
I know that I've seen a little bit of it and it looks ugly and I've heard that it's bad, so I'm going to say D tier.
I'm going to say D tier.
What do you think?
This is one. Yes, I will say D tier as well. I don't want to say too much, but I will say D tier for that one.
Cool.
And then The Simpsons game. Or actually, wait, nope, I lied. Hit and Run. Sorry, I don't know. I keep going by the tier list and not my actual notes, and I need to just trust myself and go with my notes. Simpsons Hit and Run. Derek.
I know everybody fucking loves this game.
This is the other one that I think would make the most sense to make an argument for S tier. So The Simpsons Hit and Run was released in 2003. It's Grand Theft Auto, but The Simpsons. And it was released for PC, Xbox, GameCube, and PS2. I won't say that I created this podcast solely to get the excuse to get you to play this game.
Yeah, but you did.
But I did.
Okay, here's my question.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there was the whole debacle where someone was sort of remaking it and then legally had to stop, right? Did that ever get finished? Are you able to play the person's sort of remake of it?
I don't actually know. I know that was a thing. I don't know where that ended up.
Because I would have loved to play the remake of it. Because I think the thing that I might be worried about Hit and Run right now is that I do feel like I have a little bit of trouble. This is totally a me thing. Mm-hmm. I have a little bit of trouble going back to playing games of this era now. I can play old games. Sure. I can play 8-bit, 16-bit, whatever, that era games, and I can play PS1 specifically for the nostalgia, even if they're really janky. But I don't have enough nostalgia for Xbox PS2 era to really get past some of the ugliness and the clunkiness of a lot of them. And I sort of worry that I might play this and just be okay, you know what I mean? I might not be able to get the same level of hype just because we're living 20 years later, and I have a hard time with these types of games if they're not remastered. Unfortunately, again, I'm a normie.
That's fair.
Video game stuff.
I think that's totally fair. I think one thing I will say is, so I actually owned this game, and my hope is that I still do because it's really fucking expensive to buy again. And I own it for the GameCube. I actually have found, and other people have said this too, that for whatever reason, GameCube holds up better graphically than other games. There also is some upscaling options that I've looked into, because I also, same thing, where it's sometimes it just feels too gritty and like not fun, especially when you're playing on like an HD TV. And so I have looked into some of those kind of options. I think that I'm hoping that we can play this on, if I can find my damn copy. But I think that the other thing that is helpful for this is that it's Simpsons graphics, right? So I think that when you're thinking about like the grittiness of like a Metal Gear Solid, right? Like where it's like a human being like in PS2 era like is different, but like when you have like the big blocky like Homer running around, like I think it still might hit. Like I really I
might hit and run. You want to make a case for S tier?
I want to make a case for S tier for this one. But I also, here's the other thing I will say. I was thinking about this going into this. I also could very much see, for a lot of the reasons you just listed out, this being a game that doesn't meet the same expectations that I had for it, like from childhood. So it's a very real chance that has the biggest fall of any of these games. So it'll be interesting to see.
We'll see.
All right, and then we only have 2 more left. We have The Simpsons Game, which was released in 2007. So 2003 for Hit and Run, and then 2007 for The Simpsons Game, which is just wild to me.
I guess this was really just in conjunction with the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that would have been the same year.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I didn't even.
That makes sense.
I didn't even put that together yet.
Well, you got a few months to figure. Year, 2 years to figure that out?
Yeah, we got a while. This is a meta platformer where the Simpsons family gets special powers after learning they're in a video game. That alone sounds just fun.
Yeah, I remember I wanted to play this at the time. I actually don't know why I didn't, because I got an Xbox 360. I just never got around to buying it.
Okay,
but I always wanted to.
Here's the wild thing about this, Derek. So I can't remember if I just mentioned the platforms because my brain is fried from Bartmania. But Xbox 360, Nintendo DS, Wii, PS2, PS3, and PlayStation Portable. It was released on like fucking everything at the time.
Yeah, it was literally everything but PC. That is.
And there's
so
actually
funny.
something really fun about that we'll talk about when we cover that episode. Really minor thing, but
I think I know. Don't they they reference that or something? Don't they? Like
yeah.
But
it sounds like a really fun Simpsons game. It sounds like a almost quintessential Simpsons game.
I think that might be one where it's just sort of like, oh, the gameplay is but like the writing makes up for it. Like that's my expectation for it. I feel like that's what I heard about it too. That it's not like, it's not like innovating or anything, but like if you just want some fun Simpsons comedy writing, and it is sort of wild that they've never really done like a meta. We're acknowledging we're in a video game. Let's play with that sort of style before. It's kind of wild that they waited this long to do it. I think that it'll probably be fun and funny enough, and especially some of the clips that I know that I've seen from it that I love to death. Where's my bitches?
I was going to say that's where the Where's My Bitches comes from, right?
Right. I fucking love that so much. And yeah, like just from like that alone, I think there's going to be enough moments to enjoy it as if it was just, a latter era Simpsons episode where it's probably not the funniest, best thing in the world, but I think we'll enjoy it. So A or B for that. I'm not sure what we want to go. Maybe, I guess A compared to everything else is in B.
I think A. I think A makes sense for that one. Looking at some of the other stuff in B, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to put the Simpsons game next to, even Simpsons wrestling, as much as I made a case for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is fun though, because I'm looking at this already, and I'm like, man, there's already some stuff I think may move. Like I think there's stuff that, again, we're just shooting. We have no idea. Like,
make sure when this is posted on social media that it's very clear in all the posts that we have not played most of these games. This is a prediction.
Yeah.
Don't come for us for these opinions, because the opinions are based on nothing.
The opinions are based on a 1-sentence description that I gleaned off of getting the description from Simpsons Wiki. The other thing I will say too is I did have this haven't played tier for anyone who's filling this out. If you want to, utilize that, if you've played like a good chunk of these, but you don't want to rank ones you haven't played, there you go.
We could make our individual real versions where it is just like the 3 games that I played and then all the rest I haven't played.
I love that.
Actually, that's probably a good idea, just to make it extra clear. I just don't like gamers on the internet, and I'm afraid of people being mad at our podcast social media. So I think making it extra crystal clear where these opinions are coming from.
I will say too, I think we've done a good job of putting these in. I don't think even the hardest gamers are going to bat for Simpsons games, to be quite honest. I think
That's
I think
true.
Hit and Run
That's
and the arcade
true.
game are the two that they would, and we have those in S tier. So you know what? They can they can I don't know what I'm going to say. But anyway, the last one that we have to rank and to talk about is The Simpsons Tapped Out. This was released in 2012 for the iOS and 2013 for Android. It is a mobile city building game that stars the city of Springfield and your wallet.
Yeah.
There are microtransactions, right? I didn't just make that
Oh my
up.
god. Yeah, it's a classic freemium game. You have to pay so much money. That's why I stopped playing it, because it's sort of like, I'm not going to pay money on this dog shit stuff. Except it's not dog shit. That's the thing that I actually feel like it might be kind of higher on the tier list, because
Really?
it is a fun game. It is addictive. I mean, the whole deal is that you're basically just playing it just to hear funny references and hear characters say funny Simpsons things you recognize. And it does do a lot of deep cuts and stuff too, like references that you didn't even know you remembered end up in that game, and like characters that made one appearance. That's sort of the fun of it. It's sort of like, what if a Simpsons wiki page was a game and then asked you to pay 99 cents to do anything like that? It's that kind of thing, which, so like the ethical side of me, the moral side of me, that's sort of like, this is just taking advantage of people's video game addictions and then milking money out of them, makes me want to like cast it off. But I think if you want to argue like, what makes a good Simpsons game? Is it funny and built on the lore of the show and made by people that are trying to appeal to fans? And is it probably fun to play and that it's very addictive? I think that it, unfortunately, even though I'm ethically against a lot of freemium style games, I think it ticks all of those boxes, like I think that it might actually be like, I think we might put it in, I would put it in B tier, I think. Because I feel like it acknowledges B tier. Yeah. I think that acknowledges the merits of it, but also like doesn't put it up high with the other ones, just because there is the fact that like it is a cash grab mobile game that isn't necessarily built to be like a good game so much as it is a thing to make money from, but it is also fun, like.
I think everything you just said makes sense to me. I think this is going to be one of the ones that I struggle with, because I've never been huge into mobile games, and I don't think you have to be huge into mobile games to enjoy it, but I've also never really been like a city builder game guy.
Fair, yeah.
I think the only city builder sim game that I've made or played has been Roller Coaster Tycoon, and that's just...
Well, it's just hella fun. It's building an amusement park.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's one I might struggle with, kind of in a similar vein to like what you were talking about with like Hit and Run. But listen, I also... you can still download it today. Like, it's still a game today, right? Like,
it's a highly successful game.
So like there has to be something to it, right? Like, so I even honestly, part of me even wonders if it belongs in A tier. Like, even just that
I just
alone,
morally don't want it to put it in A tier.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So there you have it. We did it. This is the definitive list of Simpsons games. This is it. Everybody has to agree with us now. No, just totally joking. We'll post this out, once the episode releases. And like I said, I'll make sure we have a link to this template if other people want to play along. Because honestly, I think tier lists they're kind of fun. I'll be honest. Mm-hmm. I just have fun doing them. So, sweet. I won't recap it because we just spent a whole lot of time going through that. But you can take a look at it when we share that out if you would like.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are all the games that we're going to cover. And I think the plan, there's going to be a couple games that we're going to mush into one episode. But for the most part, we're going to try to have an episode dedicated to every single game.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fun time. Any final thoughts after doing this exercise, Derek? Anything you want to say before people come for us for our tier list?
I'm looking forward to having a better understanding of what makes a Simpsons game, I think, because I do feel like it is hard to gamify a sitcom about a family, even if they're animated. And so I think we might come to find that like what we thought we expected from a quintessential Simpsons game, which we even talked about, when we're doing our tier list, like might not actually be really the case, and I also think just like tracing the arc of how games have developed, especially like from the most, like these are not games that are necessarily made for the art, right? Like they're intentionally tie-in games that it is intentionally made to be something that is expected to make a lot of money and keep the Simpsons brand strong. And I do think that provides a really interesting like barometer for how games progressed from the 90s through the 2000s, in the most commercial way possible. And I think also comparing it to how the show changed over the years too, like how do these games reflect what was happening in the show at the time? Like the Bartmania thing is obvious, but I think we'll probably see the types of stories that are told and the senses of humor and stuff like change as the show changed, as we see these games evolve too.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree with all of that. I think that's the thing that's going to interest me a little bit. I mean, I have some like hypotheses that one, and I think we've seen this just in terms of like the little tiny descriptions that we talked about. These are games that, and I think I said this when we were doing the tier list, are they capitalizing on The Simpsons, or are they actually like distilling the essence down, right? Like I think that's one thing that's going to be interesting to see. And then I also think that like it's funny that like I not that I would expect this, but there's not like many games that are like hard to like define what genre they're in, right? Like it's very clear like what genre each of these games are in, and I think it's because with tie-in games, and this is going to be our case study, you're just kind of like following like a formula. Like Simpsons aren't like superheroes, right? A lot of tie-in games are going to be like superhero games, and there is a separate kind of formula for those. But like when you're a sitcom family, what do you do, right? So I think
it's always just like with like gimmicky Simpsons episodes where it's like the Simpsons are going to X,
right?
Or Homer gets a job at X. Like that's what you have to do with the video game. Like the Simpsons are going skateboarding. The Simpsons are going wrestling.
They're going to Grand Theft Auto. Like they're going
right.
And so like I think that is kind of like truly the case with some of these is that they're going to borrow from other. And look, gaming does this in general, right? Like there's obviously genres that are going to be out there, but I think that especially with some of these games, they're going to borrow really heavily from other formulas that have been perfected, and they're not really going to add anything new to it. I think I will be shocked if we find a platformer where I'm like, I've never seen this in a platformer before. This is so wild to see. So that's one of my hypotheses, is that they kind of follow the trend of gaming at the time, which I don't think that's not really a out there guess. I think that's pretty easy to see. But I also think that what's going to be interesting, and we see this as the years kind of start to increase between game releases, I'm really interested to see how the show performing and like what the show is going through at the time relates to kind of what's happening in the games and stuff like that, kind of what you said as well. So I think that might play a little bit more of a role than we may even think.
Definitely.
So. Woo! Well, I think we did it. Right?
That was a harder challenge than I expected it to be honest. Like considering it was based on absolutely nothing.
Wait until we start really hitting the slog that is Bartmania.
Jesus.
So that's going to be the real challenge.
I can't believe I'm like dreading playing a video game, but that's where we're at, I guess.
I made video games homework, Derek. I'm your worst teacher ever. But that does bring us to the end of our first episode. If you're ready to play along with us, you don't have to wait long. We will be releasing our next episode very shortly, where we will be covering the very first game in Simpsons Gaming canon, the beloved arcade beat 'em up, The Simpsons arcade game.
Hell yeah.
If our ideas are intriguing to you and you wish to subscribe to our newsletter, be sure to follow us on Instagram. We are at Simpsons Gaming Pod. You can also email us questions, corrections, or just Simpsons quotes you really like at simpsonsgamingpod@gmail.com. This podcast is a proud member of the Glitterjaw Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts, you can check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com, including Derek. What are some of your shows over on Glitterjaw?
I have a bunch. I have Walloping Websnappers. It's a Spider-Man podcast where Doug and I do deep dives in every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. I have Gimmicks, where my co-host David and I look at the high-concept, experimental, gimmicky, structure-breaking episodes of television, which we referenced earlier. Tommy was on for a Simpsons episode on 22 short films about Springfield a while back. I also, what's my other show? Skreeonk, a Godzilla movie marathon, where Doug and I are stomping through Godzilla's filmography. You can obviously find all of those wherever you get your podcasts.
Hell yes. And I, Tommy, my other podcast is Distant Echoes, a Star Wars podcast where my podner, good God, I got through most of this and then just started falling apart.
I kind of love
Podner, my partner, Podner, Cass, and I watch every episode of Star Wars TV series in a chaotic and increasingly confusing order. You can find me at Awkward Comma on Twitter.
And you can find me at Derek B. Gale on Twitter and on other platforms under that name, or Dare Bear or Mr. Dare Bear. And I'm on Twitch at Mr. Dare Bear as well. If you want to see old VHS recordings of television airings with the original commercials, sometimes I'll show original airings of The Simpsons with the original commercials from the 90s on there.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you ever come across a Simpsons video game commercial, you have to let everyone know.
I definitely will.
Our theme music was recorded by the band whose name you'd love to touch. That's right, Max Power. You can follow them on Instagram and Facebook at The Real Max Power Band. Seriously, shout out those guys. Thank you so much for doing that.
So cool.
And remember, as always, tell your parents to
listen to Lee Carvallo's potting challenge or go to hell.